Hi, my name is Myra with the Shape Salon. I'm going to be demonstrating a precision eyebrow wax. You see me here applying barrier to the skin. I'm using soft wax, and soft wax attaches to the skin. So you want to make sure that you apply that barrier so you're not lifting the skin, causing any abrasions on the skin, on the face. Now I'm just gently wiping it off. Using an eyebrow spoolie, brush the hairs in an upward motion. Doing this allows you to see the skin and see the hair that you need to remove. Starting at the bridge of the nose, right underneath the eyebrow, you want to smooth the wax in an upward diagonal motion towards the arch of the brow and stop. Now, be careful not to get too much of that wax in the hair. You want to tweeze those little areas that are super close to the hairs. Instead of putting wax on it, you can remove way too much. Apply the wax strip. Hold the skin taut and remove the wax strip in the opposite direction that you applied the wax. From the arch of the brow, we want to apply the wax where we left off and smooth it to the tail of the eyebrow, right underneath those hairs. Be careful, don't get too close. Apply your wax strip. Hold the skin taut and remove that wax strip in the opposite direction. Here I'm just trying to show you the brow hairs that were removed, but it didn't make it into the screenshot. Moving over to the middle brow. On the right side of the face, just split the nose in half, and that's the area that we're going to be working with. Don't get too close to the outer corner or near the tip of that brow because we want to tweeze those hairs. Apply your wax strip, remove it in the opposite direction. Always add pressure after the pull. Brushing the hairs down. Now I'm adding the wax in a thin layer right across the top of the brow to the arch. Don't get super close to those hairs. We want to tweeze those or use a brow shaper. Add your wax strip, pull the skin taut, and remove it in the opposite direction. Always add pressure after the pull. Starting where we left off at the arch of the brow down to the tip. Keep the wax as thin as possible. Add your strip. Remove it in the opposite direction. Now here you see me using a brow shaper to create a crisp line. Keeping the hairs out of the way, brushing them down so you can see what you're working with. Don't go too deep, but you don't want to remove too much hair off the top. You just want a crisp line. She has a lot of fuzz on her skin, so what you see me doing here is just removing some of that fuzz. And when you brush the hairs up, you can actually see the arch creating. But you don't want those long brows. You want to trim them up nice and neat. Here I'm using tweezers, just kind of grabbing some of those hairs that were left over that didn't quite come out of the skin. You don't want to go back over the skin with soft wax because it does attach to the skin and it will remove layers of skin after using it so many times. Make sure you have a good pair of tweezers that is going to get in there and pick up the tiniest piece of hair. That gives you a more crisp, precision eyebrow. Going in, just choosing one hair at a time. One hair makes a big difference. If you were to go back in with wax, you're going to remove too much hair and possibly cause skin lifting. Now here I'm using my little brow scissors. I'm just going through and taking off those tips of the hairs that are just sticking up a little bit too far. You don't want to go too deep with it because you will cut a gash in the eyebrow. Brushing the hairs down. Now I'm trimming the long hairs on the bottom, staying right underneath the brow, just removing the extra tips. Brushing the trimmed hairs out of the way, and now the brow is coming to life. I still see a few little hairs that I need to trim, and that's what makes this process so precise. You're paying attention to the smallest details, and that's what builds your clientele. I know it looks like my client is very chatty, but we love to talk. We talk through all of our services, and it's going to be hard for me to find a video to put on here where my clients aren't talking. So if it's distracting, I do apologize. Now I'm over on the left brow. And as you can see, brows are sisters, not twins. So her right eyebrow is slightly different than the left. Starting at the bridge of the nose, right under the eyebrow, apply the wax in an upward diagonal motion towards the arch of the brow. Hold the skin taut, add that wax strip and remove it in the opposite direction. Start where you left off at the arch of the brow down to the tail. Add the wax. Add your wax strip. Pull the skin taut and remove it in the opposite direction. When you have little bits of wax left over, add the wax strip and remove it in the opposite direction. Don't pick at the wax. It is very uncomfortable on the skin. Adding wax in the middle area of the brow, not getting too close to the edge of the eyebrow. Add your wax strip, pull the skin taut, and remove it in the opposite direction. Brushing the hairs down. Now we're going to work on the top of the brow, making a smooth, thin layer of wax as close to the brow as possible without touching most of those hairs that create that arch. Add your wax strip, pull the skin taut, and remove it in the opposite direction. From the arch of the eyebrow, we're going to add the wax down towards the tail of the brow. Add your wax strip, pull the skin taut, and remove it in the opposite direction. Now I'm brushing the hairs up just to see how much I'm going to have to trim and if there's anything that I need to tweeze. Using my brow trimmers, my brow scissors, I'm going in and I am removing just the tips. Brushing the hair down and removing the leftover hairs that stick out when you brush them down. And as I said before, brows are sisters, not twins. They're not going to be totally perfect, but you do your best to try to make them look even as possible. Going in with my brow scissors, removing some of the extra long hairs on top. Trying to make it precise as possible. Still seeing hairs that I can remove to make the brow as perfect as possible. Now I'm going in with my brow shaper, pushing some of the fuzz that she has on her outer brow line, pushing it down to create a crisp line. One of her brows grows in a straight angle from the nose up. The other one grows in a curve. This one on the left side grows straight. The right one grows more curved. So I'm looking at the brows and I'm trying to even them out a little bit more. After using the brow shaper, pushing some of that hair down, I can see more hair that I can remove now off the top to try to make it look as even as possible to the right brow. And what you see me doing with the wax, with the leftover hair and the wax strip, That is a previous strip that I've used. It had just a little bit of wax on it, so I was just grabbing some of those leftover hairs that I trimmed and picking them up because it was irritating me. Don't remove too much hair off of the top of the brow. The top of the brow is what gives you the brow a shape. Removing the hair underneath creates the arch. So don't remove too much off the top. Now I'm just going in with my Define Brow Pencil, creating a crisp line, shading in some areas that you can see the skin, adding depth to the brow. Now you see me just smoothing that line, softening it up, and I'm still seeing leftover hairs that I'm picking out of the way. Moving over to the left side of the brow. And as I said before, brows are sisters, not twins. You want to make them look as even as possible, but sometimes you're going to have just a slight difference between the two. So now you see me just shading some of the areas where I can see the skin. And this one, I'm just trying to angle it just a little bit more so that it looks like the left brow. Her left brow is a little bit fuller than the right, but that's how they grow. So you don't want to take too much off the bottom of the brow. Just leave it as it is and work with it. And the brow pencil that I'm using is Kelly Baker Brows. Now you'll see me here using a contour pencil, which I'm going to add a little highlight underneath the brow. Start in the middle and work my way in, making thin lines. So I'm going to use a brush to smooth it. Always start in the middle and smooth out. All right, now I'm going to use my flathead brush, smoothing the tip down flat as possible. Now I am smoothing out that line. I'm smoothing it up to the brow without going into the hairs, and I'm smoothing it out on the skin. Once I get the line crisp and neat, I'm going to drag that line down into the skin to blend it. We're not going to go all the way across the top of the brow. It gives me clown vibes. So just drag that line down. We just want to work with what's underneath. Use the leftover on the tip of the tail on both sides, and that's it. We're smoothing out that contour line as smooth and even as possible up against the hairs. Light against dark creates a crisp line. After you get that line as neat as possible up against the hairs of the brow, you want to drag that line down into the skin to blend it. When working with eyebrows, it's best to work with them when they're lying on their back. But if you are a hairstylist and your client is in your chair at the shampoo bowl, it's totally fine. You're just going to have to find an angle that works better for you. I'm Myra, and thank you for watching Precision Eyebrow Waxing.